we are going to do a kind of a deep dive, because I don't know how deep we're going to go, but we're going to go into Devlink. We'll try to understand what it is, and we'll try to build something with it, okay? Devlink is a new tool that Webflow released early in June. It was a closed beta before, and now it's in beta, open beta, so anybody who's watching this can request access to it right now by just going to webflow.com/devlink. And this tool will essentially allow us to export UI that has been built in Webflow, in a Webflow project like this that I have already prepared, into React components.
That's sweet.
So supposedly, Devlink can help speeding up the development process of building a React application. Okay, this is one of the downsides that I want to bring up just right now, and it's that Devlink just works with React at this moment. I believe that it's not specific to Next.js, but although I know that the documentation prompts you to create a Next.js project, I think that it works with any kind of React application. Okay, so just for React, no Svelte, no Vue, no Angular. Maybe we'll see that in the future, but not the case right now. Okay, but we'll just have fun with it. I'm not a React developer, so I apologize if half of this video it's me learning how to do stuff in React. I hope that we don't spend a lot of time with this, but if we do, I have a wonderful audience here that probably can help me a lot. Probably most of one knows React better than me, so you can help me all. I think that we're just ready to start. Just for context, I'm going to be following the guide to Devlink that it's officially published in the Webflow developers documentation. Okay, so everything that I'm going to be doing today, you can find it here in these docs. Although I want to build an application, so obviously the app that I'm going to build, it's not going to be explaining here, but the basics of Devlink will. So guide to Devlink, I think that you can find it if you go to docs.developers.webflow.com. Which is kind of long. I didn't know that this was that long. Or if you just look for Devlink docs at Google, you probably can find it. Anyways, so first section of the documentation, it's getting access to Devlink. As I mentioned before, Devlink is in open beta, which means that maybe you don't have what I'm going to show you later in the UI. Okay, I can just make just show you the options, but essentially components can be exported with Devlink. So you should see this option in the components panel in Webflow. If you don't have this option, this probably means that you are not inside the open beta. And to just go inside the open beta, I think that you click on start using Devlink in webflow.com/Devlink and just fill the form. And probably, I don't know how long will it take, but I don't think it's going to be long. So just request it. I have a few resources. I'm just going to skip everything. I want to follow the documentation. So getting set up with Devlink. I don't have anything. We'll do everything from scratch together so you can see the whole process. Okay. Well, first step, create your Next.js project. So as I mentioned before, they kind of suggest to use Next.js instead of just plain React. Okay, which would make sense. But if you want to use Remix, or if you want to use React with a different router, that's up to you. I think that it's gonna be fine. It should work anyways. Okay. But let's open this. Create a Next.js app. We go to setup, and there is the CLI option with npx to create a Next.js app that should already create us just a template. Okay. So let me pull my terminal here. Can I zoom in here? I can. Yeah. Okay. So I have already created a directory for it. Okay. And the only thing that I'm going to do is run this command, which is npx, but I'm not going to use npx. I use pnpm in my case. So I'm going to say pnpm dlx, which is the same as npx for pnpm. And I believe that you can also say pmpx. But even Copilot, it's already generating stuff for me. But let's use pm DLX, and it's going to be create next app at latest. And this is saying the name of the app. And in my case, because I already created the directory, I'm just going to use a dot. Okay. And then dash use pm in my case, not npm. Dash example. And the example that they're showing us, it's this one. So let's just copy and paste it in here. And let's wait for the magic. Okay, cool. Because I use pm, it already suggests me to use pm commands. That's cool. But let's for now open this in VS Code. I want to explore what's inside this Next.js project. So we have a few directories, and it's pages and public and styles. And I mean, I'm going to assume that pages is going to be all the pages with a router. And I know that Next.js has a similar router to Spellkit, which is a file-based router, meaning that every single file that you add with an index.js, I think, it becomes a page, I think. Then public, just any static files, and then styles, I mean, it already says it, but it's just for writing CSS. And by default in this template, we have a homepage that has a head component and just some HTML with some styles and a footer and some scope JSX, some style CSS, and that's it. So let's just run this. Let's say pm dev. So far, everything's working fine. Okay, localhost 3000. Cool. So we have this. Welcome to Next.js. Let's just try changing something. Let's make sure that everything is working fine. Welcome. Save. Cool. Okay, so we have a development server. We can tweak stuff, which is good. And what I want to do is just get rid of everything because I don't care about what's written in here. I really just care about what we're going to build with Webflow, not directly here. Okay, so I'm just going to say return. I think JSX works like this. H1, home, and do this. Yeah, cool. Okay, but I don't want to use JavaScript. I'll use TypeScript. And I know that the extension is TSX. And hopefully this is working still. Is it? Let's start TS server. Come on. Okay, no errors. Is it working fine? Yeah, it is. Cool. So no scope styles, no nothing. I just want to have this basic thing and then just jump into Webflow because the power of Devlink comes now. Connect to local dev. Okay, so now we have to connect this project with Webflow, right? Because we want to be importing the UI straight from Webflow. And in this section, essentially, they just give us the instructions that we can see in here. They're just saying, we have to install a CLI that's specific to Webflow. We have to create a file that contains some configs. And then we're going to have one command for syncing between Webflow and the Next.js project or the React project. Okay. So for now, let's install the CLI because that's the first step that we need. So let me pull this. Actually, I'm going to kill it. And let's say pm add developing the CLI. And this CLI essentially, it's probably everything that Webflow is going to use for now on for any new tool that comes up. So anything that's related to building things with code, this CLI should allow us to interact with what Webflow provides. Okay. Second, it's create this config. So let's create this file, new file with the Webflow rc.js. And we have to copy this. And we have to generate an API token, okay? So far, up until this point, I know what I'm doing because I kind of did a little bit of homework. But past this, I really will be learning stuff with you, okay? But I know that we have to get an API token. So I think that you could either just create the API token at the workspace level, or you can create it at the site level. And we're going to do it at the site level. So we're going to go to site settings and integrations. And if we go down here, there's this section called API access that generates an API token. Cool, we have the token. I know that the last step, it's just syncing stuff. But obviously, if we want to sync stuff, first we have to create those elements. Because right now I have a completely empty project. I just cloned the client first template. I got rid of everything because I know that we were about to design stuff. And now I want to create something. Let me check the guide if I'm missing something. So connect to local dev, create the Webflow project, create a simple component. I skipped a step. We have to do this. Hit the components menu, then we export and we do the setup. Okay, so we have to do the second step that I just skipped. And it's creating a simple component. This component can be anything, okay? Maybe what we could do, first of all, is try to explain what's up with a UI library, with a JavaScript UI library, how things work. And actually, I think that in the React docs, let's just bring the React docs because I checked them before and I know that there's this section that it's kind of interesting. Essentially, they explain like what's up with React, what can you do with React, and this applies basically to every JavaScript framework, component-based JavaScript framework. And it's that when you're building a UI, you have to think with components in mind. So they, for example, they show this UI where we have a search bar and then the checkbox and then a list. And inside the list, there are a bunch of rows, and in each row has some information. So it's an apple and it has a price of 1, dragon fruit, price of 1, etc. Okay. So this UI can be broken down into components, kind of like the building blocks of the application. So if we scroll down a little bit, here's what they suggest to create for the components, right? We have this filterable product table, which would be a component, and then we have a product table, and inside the product table we have the title or the category row, and then the product row. So every building block of the application can be described as a component, okay? And essentially, we're going to do the same in Webflow. So imagine that, for example, we have a list of cards, right? Let's just create a list of cards, super quick. That's going to be, actually, let me play around with the quick sec. I never used it before. Quick sec. Sell. First time using this. Remove rows or columns, delete cells. Okay. Well, have a cell. Inside the cell, I want to have a heading. Let's just imagine that those are cards for, a listing, something. Can I replicate stuff? Probably doesn't everything is the exact value. I'm gonna give it. So, great, cool. And I put everything inside there. And I'll grab the content of it there, inside the grid. Cool. And quick sec. I apologize for the words. Okay. So now I can duplicate this. Cool. We have a list of books inside a grid. Okay. And every single one of these, it's the same component, right? We have the component, which would be the book card. And the only thing that we're doing is programmatically, when we load the correct data, programmatically replicating that component with the proper data, right? So that's it. For example, now we have two components. We have the component, the card. So it could be book card. Let's call this book card component, for example. And then we have a parent component, which would be the books grid component, okay? Or books, call it list, whatever, like that. Okay, should I style this? I should probably style this. Vertical, rows, something like that. And let's use in the grid, let's use Rams, because I want to be accessible. Oh, not 22. Oh, this is cool. So now it updates everything together. Oh, there have been changes in Webflow I have noticed. Okay, cool. Actually, there's no need to publish it, but anyways, let's define this as a component. I know that this can be created as a component. So we'll call this did I call this? Book card. Not cards. Card. Like that. And obviously, we could create a component also for the book cards, but I don't know how nesting components works. So for now, let's just keep it like this. Cool. We have the first component. So now we can export that into our React application, because all the logic that I told you about of rendering something and then updating each one of these with the proper information, all of that it's going to happen in React, not in Webflow. Okay, in Webflow we're just creating the template, and React is going to be the moving, the actual live application. So components, export, and we have to run this pmpx Webflow Devlink sync. So it's going to be pmpx, but I want to use not pmpx, no mpx. It's going to work. I think it should. No binaries found in Webflow. Maybe only mpx works. Oh yeah, okay. If somebody from Webflow is watching this, just for you to know, the CLI doesn't work with pmpx, just works with mpx. Please fix it. Okay. Devlink. So we have a generated folder that contains a bunch of stuff. And this is the last thing that I did this morning before just giving up and waiting to learn everything later in the stream. Okay, so now this is unexplored territory. Let's explore it together. I know that it generates components, and I know that if we look for the component that we just created, that it's the book card, it should be here. It is. Cool. So we have the component that it's just generated by Devlink. And the nice thing, this is something that I think it's cool, and it's that it generates the components with full TypeScript support. So it has all the information from the component typed in here as a TypeScript declaration. So when we go, and probably when we add props, because I know that we can add props to the components, it's probably going to have the type declarations for it, which is cool. And okay, so it exports also the styles. Let's remember that I created this class, book card component, and I added a bunch of styles. So display, direction, and the gap. And I can see this class has it. Cool. Is it applied to it? Yeah, styles, book card component. It is already applied to it. Okay, cool. So they created everything. And okay, so heading, block, link, and this belongs to each one of the elements. Nice. Link as a button. Okay, so built-in, let's explore this. Built-in. Okay, so it seems that they generate a folder, and it's called built-in, that probably exports everything that it's built in Webflow. So it's background video, basic. What's basic? Oh, block, span, block quote, link, list. Okay, cool. Drop downs, Facebook, forms. Okay. Map, snap bar, slider. Okay, so probably everything that we could find built in here, it's also exported as it's a pre-built component that we could reuse. Okay. And we have the book card and some global CSS that contains the CSS from the entire project, probably. Yeah, looks like it. Global styles. I know that this global styles, it's from the other component that it's built in the client first template. So these global styles is not something from Webflow. It's actually something from my project. It's this global styles component, this one, that contains some custom CSS. Okay, this is cool. Heading. Okay. Interactions. So it seems that like they export the interactions. This is something that I want to dive in later if we have time, because I know that the generated, the public side, when you have interactions, they include a lot of crap in it, like jQuery and some animation libraries based on jQuery, and it's quite messy, the front-end library. So I want to know if they actually bundle that together also when you're using interactions with Devlink. My next step, I guess it would be replacing this home that I have here. Let's remember that my application, my React application, currently just has this home in here. But let's try. So the component was called book card. So can I do book card? I can do book card. Okay. What happens now? Oh, I have to npm dev. Cool. Okay, my book description. Ta-da! By me. Cool. So we inspect the HTML. Let's see what we have here. Let me zoom in a little bit before Gabe gets mad. So, okay, div class book card component. So it renames the class because it probably is scoped to avoid collisions. Okay. And the global class, which would be this one, it's not renamed because it was not exported. Okay. But we don't have the styles now. This is not looking at this as this. So that's probably one extra step to make sure that the styles are also imported. So installing the npm module, we've done this. Supported elements, we've seen all the built-in elements. Okay. Features, interactions. I don't care about interactions for now. Styling. Okay, global styles. In order for your components to have access to Webflow global default styles, you'll need to import a CSS file. In Next.js, you can add this to the layout tsx file. So, okay, so we just have to import the global CSS. So I have to create a layout.tsx. So I would do something like layout.tsx. And if it was in SpellKit, which is what I'm used to, that will already work. But, so, okay, pages router, nested routes, pages with dynamic routes, layout pattern. Okay, so we can create a layout, which would be a slot. Single shared layout with custom app. Okay, if you only have one layout for your entire application, which is what I want to do, I want to have a layout that injects the global styles, you can create a custom app and wrap your applications with the layout. Okay, so it's the underscore app.js. There's one. Okay, so underscore app.js. Let me just copy this. So this should not be called layout, it should be called app.tsx. Can I use CSX here? Yeah, but I don't have a layout component. Actually, don't have anything. So I don't want a layout component. I just want a component. Is that going to work? It does. Okay, so now can I import this? What happens if I do this? Fault to compile. Okay. Oh, probably because this add it's not addressing. Let me do this. Oh, nice. Cool. Okay. If somebody from Webflow is also watching this, just for you to know, there is no path aliases in the example project from Next.js. So this doesn't really work unless we add a path alias. So I had to do this ... to move to the previous folder, to the parent folder. Okay, cool. So right now we're just returning a book card, right? But I mean, I want to have a list of cards like this. So right now we just have the book card. We don't have the rest. So if we inspect this, we just have the app wrapper, which would be the top wrapper of the app. And then right inside it, we just have one single card, which would be this book card. But I want to do this books list component and all of this. So I guess that I have to export all of this too. How would this work? I know that there's a way of creating slots, so we'll probably need that. Or, okay, hold on. The global CSS style sheet contains all the global style definitions for your Webflow site to be used in the Devlink project. It is exported alongside with your custom components, CSS modules, and contains your custom fonts, all the global resets, specific classes from Webflow, and form elements. Custom CSS text selectors. Oh, this is what I wanted to know. Well, global CSS does not contain its classes set on elements that are not part of any of your components. Okay. Classes applied to the body are not included. So this means that I cannot do something like, oh, hold on. This? Yeah, the container class is not there. But this is kind of a bummer, right? Because then what if I want to create a bunch of global classes that I want to reuse, but not in components? Because, I mean, it's convenient to create this component for the book card, but maybe I don't want to create a component for the page wrapper, for the main wrapper, for the padding section. I don't want to create that many components. So it would be cool if I could mark a CSS class to be exported globally somehow. Is there a way to do that? CSS modules. By default, Webflow components use CSS modules to prevent components. No. Hey, the custom IDs, user styles is also bound to component. Nah. Slots. Okay, so it seems that we cannot export classes as global classes. So I'll have to rely on slots. Because, I mean, slots, if it works like the rest of the frameworks, essentially when you define a slot, you define a component with a slot where you can inject stuff. So we could do something like, let me just move this aside. So we could create, for example, hold on. Did I just duplicate this? What the hell? Okay, anyways. So I would create a component called page wrapper that would contain all of this. And inside container small, I would create a slot where I'm just saying inside here, whatever goes inside that slot will be placed as that. So essentially what would happen then is that it would go right inside like this. It's kind of weird. Okay, let me try. If you can think of a better solution, let me know. But for now, I'll just try to export this. So let's create page wrapper as a component. I'll call this page wrapper. Okay, so we have these runtime props and slots. Let's read about slots. Slots in Webflow Devlink are meant to provide the user the power of composing components within components. This is okay. This is a common React.js concept that is frequently used in code. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, the US settings for slots will appear. Okay, yep, it's in there. Slot component property. Oh, that's it? That's all I got? Okay. So, slot. Create and connect new property. Oh, hold on. But I don't want to have a slot. I want to have the slot on the container small. So I want the container small to have a slot. So I'm assuming that I have to select the container small and do create and connect new property. Okay, container small slot. Is that it? What did I do? So now I can inject stuff inside? Because I have this component called page wrapper, which is weirdly placed here. And main wrapper, padding section large, container small, and container small, it's the slot. Okay, let's just sync with Devlink. Let's see what happens. So what was the command for syncing? It was npx Webflow Devlink sync. It would be cool if they could create some kind of file listener or webhook listener. So anytime that we make changes in Webflow, it automatically syncs stuff in VS Code instead of having to do it manually. But maybe, because maybe you are tweaking things in Webflow and you don't want to be constantly syncing because it's still not ready. So I can understand that. But then you just don't run the dev server and that's it. Okay, so with sync, let me check page wrapper. Cool. So we have the page wrapper and it seems that it has a slot inside. So does it mean that I can do something like page wrapper and I can add something inside the page wrapper? Can I do this? Error. Let me get an error here. Type children has no properties in common with type blah, blah, blah. Container small slot. Okay. Oh, I have to say children. Children? Oh, container small slot. And inside here, I can pass this. Is it that? I really don't like React, I'm sorry. Okay. Oh, but it seemed that it worked. Okay, that's nice. So we have this page wrapper container. So it seems that we were able to do this, but now, because I have this component and I have this, right? And both are separate things. One thing is my books list element, my book card, and then the page wrapper, which would be a component with a slot. But how do I compose this? Like, how do I reuse this in Webflow? Is there a way that I can just put this inside? I can't, right? And if I do... What? If I do this... So now I added it inside the page wrapper component. But this doesn't give me enough control, right? Because I want to be able to... What happens if I sync this with Webflow? Okay. Exporting, compiling. Oh, hold on. But the container is set as a slot, so it's probably going to override this. Oh, maybe that's the way that it's supposed to work. Okay, let's see what happens now. So I still have this, but I want to know if this is because it comes from... It might be, actually. So if I get rid of this, and I just have my page wrapper, like that. But what if now I want to have, and the page wrapper, but I want to use a different component inside. I don't want to use these book card. I want to use something else. Like, let's imagine that I have a component that it's called, I don't know, me, say, heading. Hey, it's me. Okay, so if I have this, but I don't want to have this inside the page wrapper. I want to be able to reuse this. So how do I replace now this my book component, the book card, for this me? essentially we are defining a slot in there, but that's just specific to Devlink, right? So if let's edit this, I have the slot here, which would be container small. I mean, I've connected that. And it's a type of slot. Property settings. It's a type of slot. It's defined here, and it's connected to the element called container small. So that's fine, because I can use that inside my page. So if I do something like hold on. If I do something like this, it should, yeah. So you can see how it creates, whoops, I'm messing up. Sorry. I think I have to wrap it with parentheses. No. What? Oh, it has to be wrapped in a parent. Damn you, React. Hate you. Okay, so I have to wrap it like this. Okay, nice. You can see how I'm able to use this slot, right? But anyways, okay. So I'm just gonna say to Webflow, hey, the slots game in the designer, it's kind of weird. I think it should improve somehow because it's very confusing. Maybe I'm missing something that should be possible to do in designer, but I am not able to do it. But for now, there's one last thing that I wanted to try, and it's using props on a component, okay? And props essentially would be the way of replacing the content of a component for some custom content. So let me just say this card, that it's the My Book card. Right now it has a header, it has a description, and it has a button, right? And obviously when we have a list of cards, I want to replace the content of each one for the corresponding data. So my book 1, my book 2, whatever. Okay. So I know that there's a way of defining props. This runtime props. Okay. Let's just explore it. So let's edit this component. And I've already seen that before. Runtime props, connect to property. Okay. I want to connect a property. Do I have to connect this? Okay. So if I want to edit the text of this, I would click on this and say heading 3 text. Okay, that's my property. And the description. What if I call this description? And maybe instead of heading 3 text, I want to call this. Oh, how do I rename this now? Property settings. So I would say title instead of heading. And the last thing would be the button. And in the button, I want to have 2 things. I want to have the button text and the button URL. So create new property. This would be, okay, cool, button text and link, button link. Okay, cool. So I have nice suggestions. So now that we have these, I could use this inside Webflow. So I know that if I take this now and I replicate it, I can take one and say, okay, this is my book 1. Oops, my book 1, my book 2. And you can see how I can edit each instance independently. And we should be able to do the same in Devlink. So let me get rid of this. Just leave it as this. And let's, I keep forgetting that I don't need to publish the project. And let's sync again. So npx Webflow sync. And we have this. And now I want to use, instead of these H1s for home, I want to use the book card. And it's probably going to ask me, nice. Okay, so see what I said about the TypeScript support. I think that this is a really nice touch for them. And it's that you can see how now, if I inspect the properties, I can see button link, button text, description, title, and all of these, it's named like that because I call this title, description, button link, and button text. This is cool. Okay, so if I say something like title equals to first card, and I say description, blah, blah, and button text, pay me, please, and new button link. Let's see what happens. So if I do this, if we go to the page, cool. Okay, so this means that we can update the components. So first card, description, button, and the default. What if I leave defaults? What if I don't add description? Okay, so it keeps the defaults. That's nice too. So if we have some defaults, like my book description, this is some default text. If I do this and I sync again, oh, hold on, it's unsaved. Let me sync again. Sync again. Let's see if without doing anything, this changes. Because I think that it's not changing. Damn it. Oh, right, because this is the instance, but I want to. Oh, this one. So this should be updated now. So I'm just changing the defaults. So whenever there is nothing, there is this default text. And because it's a default, the moment that I sync with Webflow, then the file watcher from Next.js should pick it up. Come on, let's pick it up. Yay. Okay, cool. So that's nice. Good touch from them. There is these defaults. And also there's the typings. That's nice. Can I use the built-ins? Can I do something like, I think it was built-in. Isn't it called built-in? Built-in. Oh, it's an underscore. Can I do something like underscore built? Doesn't look like. What can I use from here? No, yeah, I can use it. So what if I use this? And I use, what can I use from built-in? YouTube. Nice. Okay, so I can also use the built-ins directly inside here. Video ID, it's probably not going to work now, but okay, that's cool to know. So the last thing is obviously we could do something like this: second card, third card, fourth, and let's get rid of this one. And because each one accepts different props, well, the same props but different values from the props, we can replace that. Cool. And what if I come here and now I say, because this is something that I forgot to mention, and it's that obviously we can style things. What if I say button? So now I've added a button class to the button. Oh shit, I don't have to wait until it's published. Come on. Or maybe we could sync directly from here, right? So when hitting and publish, we could be syncing. I don't know. So this should now change. It changed. Cool. Okay, cool. So we can style things. What if I do this? Change it like that. Let's wait until it's synced. Cool. Let's sync again. Probably gonna work. It should just change the text, right? Yay. Okay, cool. So I can see how this is it has potential, but also at the same time, I can see how there are many things that could be polished. So, okay, this was the first video from Devlink. I think that we have a lot more to explore. For now, there are a few things that I liked from it. There are other things that I did not like so much from it, especially the workflows inside the Webflow Designer. But I don't know, let's remember that this is a beta tool. So I'm pretty sure that it's going to improve a lot. Next Friday, we're going to do a second session with Devlink because there are still a lot of things to check from the documentation. And also somebody from the chat suggested to look at the templates from Devlink. So stay tuned because next Friday, that's what we're going to do. So thank you. If you like this, leave a like, leave a comments, and see you next Friday. See y'all.